understanding the difference between healthy striving and perfectionism is critical to laying down the shield and picking up your life. Brene Brown. Have you ever sat there frozen in front of your empty canvas or sheet of paper, too nervous to start with your new piece? Do you feel stuck in your art journey and unable to actually enjoy working on your art? Or maybe you've experienced overwhelm with the vast array of new topics to learn about to the point that you did nothing at all. I've definitely experienced all of these, especially in the beginning of my art journey. And though a variety of factors were coming into play that were keeping me from making progress, such as self doubt and insecurity, it really all tied back to one main issue that I really had to work on: my perfectionism. Back when I was getting started, I thought my self worth as an artist was based on how frequently I was able to pump out the most beautiful, perfect pieces, which means that I gave all of the importance to the final product and little to none to the creative process. Whenever a drawing or painting didn't turn out as I initially envisioned it, I made it mean that I wasn't good enough or wasn't meant to pursue this path, which means that I didn't acknowledge the fact that the bad and the meh pieces were 100% necessary in order to create the amazing ones. I berated myself every single time a drawing or painting didn't turn out because I felt I had wasted not only time, but also precious and expensive art supplies. I ignored the fact that every single piece I worked on brought me necessary skills to move forward, even when the results weren't perfect. I was also pressuring myself to be farther ahead and was constantly comparing myself to others, even though I knew that those amazing artists I came across online had been at it for years when I was just getting started myself. Eventually, I understood just how toxic perfectionism and the comparisonitis that often comes along with it can be for artists and creatives. Real growth, honing our voices as artists and increasing our confidence can only come through doing the thing and doing it enough. And not only does perfectionism fill us up with unnecessary anxiety and frustration, but it distracts us with things that don't really matter, all of which keeps us from our practice and doing the work. So, what did I do to finally make heaps of forwards progress? I was honest with myself about where I was at. I set goals. I made sure I was creating more than I was consuming. And I continued working on developing a mindset that would actually support me along the way. I also started doing and mindfully practicing the next 5 things, which really helped me keep taking baby steps forward and keep making progress towards my goals, even on days when I was feeling lost, scattered, unmotivated, and yes, even scared. So here are 5 tips to help you overcome your artistic perfectionism and your fear of the blank page or canvas if you find that happening to you a lot. Tip number 1 is going to be to make time for practice exercises and warm-up drills before getting started on a full, finalized, polished piece that you're going to be working on. Before jumping into any new drawing or painting, today I make time to loosen up my hand and arm, as well as get into a more positive headspace so that I can tackle that piece with greater confidence and ease. For example, when I'm going to be working on a complex, larger drawing, I make time to take out my large newsprint paper pad or a sheet of cartridge paper. I place it on my easel and do warm-up drills by filling up my page with different types of lines and shapes, making sure that I'm moving my entire arm, that I'm not pressing down too hard, and that I'm practicing holding my pencil effectively for drawing. When I'm going to be starting with a new, larger watercolor piece, I set aside a few minutes to practice things like basic washes and brush strokes and make sure that I'm nice and loosened up. Tip number 2 is going to be to make time to work on smaller studies that go hand in hand with areas that you want to be developing more in between larger, more complex pieces. I don't know about you guys, but When I was just getting started myself, I was so excited to jump straight to the easel or to that final painting. I wanted to jump straight to that final piece without having planned or practiced anything at all. And what's actually bad about this scenario is that I expected the outcome to be perfect. I get how exciting it can be to want to get started with a new piece. However, a huge part of an artist's journey is making time for smaller studies and explorations that'll arm you and prepare you with tools and knowledge which will help you succeed with more larger, more finalized pieces. The confidence and ease that you have when you tackle that final piece, it shows in your final product. Not to mention, you'll enjoy that process a lot more. Today, I know to break things down and work on isolated studies as well as practice different techniques via simple explorations all the time, maybe even the same amount of time that I spent working on more finalized polished pieces. If I want to improve my landscapes, or I know I'll be painting a larger landscape piece that is going to take me hours to create, I make time to practice painting different types of trees that I know I'm going to be adding into the piece. I practice different types of skies, rocks, water. Maybe I take time to refresh about perspective techniques, etc. All of these different pieces that come into play for that final landscape that I know will lead to greater success with that final piece. Moving on to tip number 3, and this one is to establish time frames for yourself and stick to them. When we're struggling with perfectionism, it can be so hard to let things go and move on to the next. Nowadays, in the quality versus quantity debate, I'm always going to be on the quantity side when it comes to our art practice. This is because I've learned that quality, as well as getting to know yourself artistically, which is so important so that we can truly hone our voice in our creative process, quality comes as a byproduct of the amount of times that you put yourself through the creation process from start to finish. I've realized that if I spend way too much time just working on one same piece, I'm not putting myself enough through that entire process. Making progress as artists comes from creating consistently and creating a lot, as well as from doing honest self-evaluation so that we can look for resources that'll help us improve based on our current level and goals. Today, I don't allow myself to spend too long on just one project, unless of course it's a commission that I'm working on or a project that I'm going to be presenting somewhere. I also make sure to set specific objectives for each larger piece or each project so that I can move on to the next thing once those objectives have been met. Tip number 4 is going to be to work on something that comes naturally or easily for you whenever you're down or going through a particularly tough period in your life. So whenever you're going through a challenging period, whether it's with your art or life in general, treat yourself with patience and grace. Taking care of ourselves mentally and physically, as well as making time for the other important areas of our lives, is essential. It's also important to accept the fact that we'll have bad days, weeks, and even months as artists, along with the amazing ones. If art is an important part of you, as it is for me, you'll probably want to keep creating for a very long time. This means it's perfectly okay to take breaks, as we're going for the long-term game here. Whenever you're feeling particularly down or are coming back to your practice after taking a long break, get back into it slowly. Work on pieces that are fun or come more naturally to you so that you can reignite your passion for art and your motivation without the pressure and the overwhelm. And finally, my 5th tip is going to be to prioritize a growth mindset and progress over perfection always. There's no finish line to reach, and there will always be more to strive for, no matter how skilled you become. My invitation to you, or permission if you need it, is to stop pressuring yourself to get places fast and do what you can to bring joy to your practice. What I've found is that when I'm enjoying my work and I share from a place of happiness, more people connect with it and more opportunities come. Although I'm a huge believer in setting goals and in consistently working towards them, I value learning, slow progress, and my inner well-being over perfection any day of the week. I've learned to find the good in all my quote unquote failures and see them as stepping stones towards the achievement of my artistic goals. All right, you guys, that is gonna do it for today's video. I really hope that you found some helpful nuggets in it, that you found it inspiring, and if you did, pretty please, I'd super appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up and share with family or friends who you think would find it helpful as well. That really helps support the work that I am doing here on YouTube and allows others to get to know about my channel. Thank you so much for watching today. Don't forget to subscribe so that I can see you next week for another video, and keep on creating. Bye guys!